Hello and welcome to the workshop for seasonal finishing touches for the dies. This is a really fun little notelet kind of die collection, which is going to create you beautiful blossoms, beautiful bouquets for this season. So think to festive, think to berries, think to pine cones, think to ivy, all those wonderful things that we're seeing at this time of year that we can use in our designs. So for this demonstration, as I've mentioned, we're doing like a little notelet card, and I wanted to give you one way of using these dies that you could then go in and use with your other die sets from this collection to change up the colorways, to change up the detailing, and to change up ultimately the style of the card as well. In front of me, I have a 6x6 card with a tent fold, so the top, so it opens like so, and we've gone ahead and cut an aperture using one of our foundation dies to the center of the design. Because we're designing in an aperture, let's go ahead and add some detailing to the inside of the card. So the scene that I'm using is from one of our Christmas collections from earlier in the year. This one comes from Winter Wanderings, and we've paired it with a little bit of green cardstock from the Craftmaster cardstock range. The reason why we've chosen green is going to be the predominant colour in the die cuts that we're featuring, and therefore it makes sense to team that with a matte layer that's going to pick up on those colour tones. So we're just centrally aligning our little matte layer to the inside of our card design using finger lift tape, and we're just taking away the carrier sheet on the finger lift tape on the reverse here, just so we can stick down this element to the inside of the card design like so. We then want to repeat that process, but for the outside of the card as well. So you can take your designs into Minecraft Studio, perhaps you've even got this on a Minecraft Studio USB, and just dial down the opacity so you've got the same design, but it's more like a watermark, a watercolor effect on the background of that paper. And again, same matte layering with that green, and again we've cut through the aperture to the center as well. This time around we're going to lift it on a little bit of foam tape. This is 5mm foam tape. Something very luxurious about using a foam tape to build your mats and layers as well. It makes them stand proud from the overall card design and just gives you that whole little bit of lift. It makes it very tactile for your card as well. Here I'm taking the carrier sheet and just folding it over the edge of the foam to give me little tabs that I can then choose to pull away to create the layers within the design, like so, all the way round. So we've got all four sides with a little tab on there as well. You'll notice I've also got foam to the inside of the circle, and that is simply there to lift and support, so you haven't got any little saggy areas on the card design itself. Just leaning over, making sure we're getting that aperture nice and central, and then checking for alignment around the edge as well, holding that element down in place as we take the tabs in turn to stick this lifted card to the design on the front. So that builds our little mats and layers with a nice elegant border to the design as well. This then gives us our focal point. This gives us our shape into which we can start designing around to create our bouquet. So we're going to go ahead. We've already got all the die cut elements cut out. Each one in turn, we're going to shape them a little bit and just lay them top and bottom of this aperture to create almost like a sprig, a little spray, a little cluster around to frame that aperture just like so. So each one coming in and just giving it texture, shaping those leaves, adding dimension, and layering it over, but offset to give you a lovely full feel to these berries. It doesn't have to be exactly the same as the top as is the bottom, but it's just to give you that framing device. Remember, I'm not sticking anything just yet. It's just to give you that idea. The ivy, as we've said, green is going to be sort of the main feature of the overall design of this piece. So ivy is going to play its part beautifully along the inside. It might be that we trim this down as well. So same thing, a little bit of ivy, maybe even, do you know what? Let's go in behind the berries and make them feel even fuller. Keeping within the realms of the card edge, but happy if it just spills over a little bit as well. Again, not being precise and exact with where it sits just yet, it's just to get a feel for this design. The dies themselves also come with the smaller versions, which is ideal for layering and giving you that sense of perspective as well. Now, You want to pop a colour, you want to really go in and introduce something like the beautiful poinsettia, just like so, to the centre of that design. Now you can see how those berries are kind of just escaping around the edge like so and coming from that central element of the poinsettia. Of course, we do have our decoupage layers as well, which we will use to build in height, to build in dimension. And we've got a few structural elements that we will add in, like the pine cones and the sticks and dry leaves as well, for even more added texture. But for now, you want to make it feel like these are all overlapping. These are all sort of interchangeable. So let's go ahead and just play around with that perspective that you're seeing from the poinsettia. So just releasing the two elements, top and bottom, taking that central poinsettia as our main focal, and then just snipping in like so. That gives us our centre image. Let's just neaten that little edge up ever so slightly. But now we can tuck the other elements that we've cut away in and up and over that central image, just to make it feel a little bit smaller. It fits to the card design better, but also gives us that idea of texture as well. Once we're happy with placement, let's go ahead and start sticking these elements down. So remember, nice full designs, loads of overlapping with the berries and the detailing for the ivy. I am going to trim just a couple of these down, just so they sit within the realms of that aperture as well. Anything we don't use, we may end up using at a different point, so nothing goes to waste. But let's just look to layer these down like so. Here, we're using the edges of the berries here just to disguise where we've snipped away that ivy. So once we're happy, I'm going to use Pinflair glue gel to stick all of these, just so it gives me a little bit of wiggle room. But let's just take one little bit and nestle that down. Remember, I'm quite happy if it comes over the edge of the card, and indeed over the edge of the aperture as well. But I'm trying not to let it come over the full sort of edge of the card itself. We're trying to keep within the realms of the base layer of the card, if you like. We can always add more glue gel if we need to. But let's just go ahead, tweak these into place so they all sit like so. Same thing with the bottom. But I think for the bottom, I might take it around just a little bit further. So playing around with that perspective and playing around with that feel, kind of giving it a little bit more of an offset angle. Looking to where I can place my glue gel. As I say, we can go back in and add more. But for now, that's okay. Berries, a little bit on the leaf there. Again, checking that flow, checking where the base of the stalk, if you like, from the ivy finishes. And let's just snip into these berries as well to elongate them a little bit around the design. Carefully snipping into that leaf and taking it like so. So almost like we can come in and create a little branch, like a little sprig of that branch coming over the other side. This is what's great about working with dies. There is so much snippability. There is so much customization you can do with elements that you snip away, twisting and turning them, so they're then following the detail of that beautiful aperture we've created there as well. I want to go in and layer this one to make it really full on this side. So again, just checking for placement before we go down and commit to that stick. Don't want to come over the edge of the card, so just checking that like so, and just layering it so it sits nicely. Now, at this point, I do want to come in with a little bit more Pinflair glue gel, just in strategic areas to give those die cuts a little bit more of an anchor point, so they're not flapping around too much. So a little bit under that leaf, and same again, this is kind of the points of where it would be most delicate. A little bit under that leaf as well. The berries I might come to later, but at the moment, we're quite snug and secure there. Next up, we've got those wonderful poinsettias. I'm just going to make sure we've got all the layers that we want. We've got decoupage in here, we've got detailing in here, but let's start with that central point and work outwards. Again, shaping each one of those die cuts and then using the poker tool just to really define elements of those leaves and give them a little bit of a twisty-turny feel. Pinflair to the centre to keep that lift and placing the poinsettia. So it's kind of at that most sort of westerly even point if you're looking at the centre of this design. Our little floral that we cut away, again shaping out, and remember, because you've cut away this bottom edge, just tuck that bottom edge down underneath that little die cut, so it's just hidden, so it's just making everything feel nice and neat and detailed as well, nestling it in. We've then also got the more leafy one, again shaping it, adding in that detail, twisting and turning those leaves, and adding in that glue gel on the reverse. Remember, that's where we cut away, so we can layer it over, just neaten up. Now we're running kind of red into red with the berries, so again we come in with things like the smaller version of that ivy, again as a fill, again as texture, but look how it gives you a pause between those red layers and just softens that whole feel. Again, twisty turny ivy, really, really pretty, layered over those red berries there. And let's just anchor those together as well. Anything where we place one down, though we're not doing an exact mirror image, it's really great idea to come in and then add that to the bottom as well, just so everything feels like it's got a theme, that it's following this same kind of recipe, if you like. Just like so. Remember, becoming longer, it's extended on the bottom, a little bit more full on the top. Let's make those wonderful poinsettia really, really prominent in our decoupage layers. So again, cutting down, taking those petals, those leaves, I should say, and just raising them proud of the design. A little bit of glue gel on the back and just checking for positioning. So it's really bringing that to life. It's making it jump from the front of the card. We've then got another layer that we can absolutely add to that centerpiece. I'm not going to worry about the decoupage on those smaller layers, just for that central piece to really draw the eye into the overall look of the design. Again, layering up with a nice amount of pin flares, so you've got really great definition between those layers, just like so. Now, we do also have these wonderful kind of structural elements. Things like the little seed heads, things like the little pine cones. Again, really going to add in dimension and depth and detailing to your design. So I'm just going to lay them over to start. Check where they're going to sit and snip them down a little bit. Having that nice long length on the stem of them really allows you to be quite creative with where you want these to sit. We've also got these lovely, lovely sticks, which I feel are going to work really beautifully behind the berries and things. Maybe mixed in the layers. Maybe all the way behind the berries. Let's just lift and tuck. Again, remembering that we're just playing around with placement like so. So it's following the line that's already laid down. We're not escaping over the edge, but it's just adding in a little bit more texture. Let's go in with another seed head. I feel like I want to load this kind of top area here with the little seed heads. I also love how these match in with the colours on the ivy, little berries or little seeds as well. So 2 little ones there. That needs a little bit of glue just to hold it in place, like so. We've got dried leaves we could use. We could add in a few little pine cones if we wanted. Let's just see if we want to add those. No, I think we're good. We've got options though, haven't we, by choosing different sizes of them, and then that could sit quite nicely within the realms of the design. But we also then could add a sentiment too. So a sentiment coming from behind the florals, just for you. It is sticking into the glue behind the poinsettia, but you could indeed add this in with a little bit of foam as well for placement. Just making sure everything's detailed so it sits really beautifully. And I think rather than adding lots and lots, I think we're going to call it, that is quite nice. Oh, had a little escape berry. That one needs a little bit more glue. Strategically placed. Let's just go back in and add you. And there we go. Nice little notelet card. As I've said, we can go in. Those berries do want to escape. Excuse me one moment whilst I encourage them nicely to stay where they've been placed. We could go in with different elements. You could go in with the pine cones, the dried leaves, the little lanterns, really make it your own. Of course, have that sentiment so it's sitting straight or at a jaunty angle, why not? Just like so, to finish your lovely little 6x6 card featuring the elements from the seasonal finishing touches. I'm going to have a word with those berries because they are desperately trying to escape off the front of that card. Thank you very much for joining me, and we shall see you next time. If you would like to see more from Highlight Crafts, make sure you click the like button. Subscribe by clicking the subscribe button below, and click the bell icon to receive notifications on all our future content. You can also click here to see our latest video, or click here to see more videos like this one.